As the modern era poses new tests for the United States Constitution, many of the debates dominating today's headlines appear to echo challenges Americans faced centuries ago. Now a new book provides some context surrounding the nation's founding document and its application today. It's titled The U.S. Constitution, a Comprehensive and Annotated Guide for the Modern Reader. And author Melissa Murray joins us now. She's a professor at New York University School of Law and co-host of the Strict Scrutiny podcast. It's great to have you back on the show, and congratulations on the book, which you say is for the modern reader. So explain, if you can, the timing and the purpose of the book.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mika. It's an important time for all Americans to be engaged in this founding document. And one of the things that I found in my work is that there are a number of Americans who don't really know what the Constitution says. They have great ideas about what the president should be doing, but don't recognize that some of the things they'd love the president to do are things he actually cannot do. That those are things that other actors are invested with the authority to do. And so that's not surprising. We live at a time where many schools don't have civics education, where we're not teaching these documents. Now's the time, though, for Americans to really become engaged. We are living in a moment where there are perhaps enormous tests for the Constitution, and we need to understand these limits, need to understand our rights so that we, the people, can enforce them.
Professor Murray, John Heilman's with us and has a question for you. John.
Hey, Melissa. Congratulations on the book. I'm curious about whether you think over the course of this Trump era, which is to say the last 10 years, it feels to me like there's been way more discussion about legal issues, broadly speaking, the intersection of law and politics, and in particular constitutional issues in that time frame. Do you think that the average level of kind of conversational knowledge about the Constitution has actually gone up in that period? There's certainly been more coverage of those issues as the norms have been tested, as the Supreme Court has become more controversial. But do you feel like you're talking to a more educated public, or do you feel like the level of understanding substantively is still needs to be raised considerably given the stakes involved?
That's a great question. I think it's a yes and question. So, yes, lots of people are more engaged, certainly with the work of the Supreme Court. And I think my podcast, Strict Scrutiny, plays a role in that. There are more eyes on the court than there have ever been in the history of this country. But there's still a basic lack of understanding. When Simone Sanders Townsend and I did our special for MS Now on black women just ahead of the 2024 election, we were surprised to find that in Washington, D.C., there were a number of people who were angry at President Joe Biden for failing to do something about police brutality in the district. And I was surprised by that because police brutality is actually a mayoral issue. The president can do certain things through the Department of Justice, but for the most part, oversight over law enforcement really comes at the local level. So the basic structure of our government may not be understood in really precise or nuanced terms by the average American. Again, this is a generation of people who were raised under No Child Left Behind, where we divested public schools of physical education, music education, art, but also civics. So we need to get back to basics. We need to start teaching people how this government is structured, what the rights are, and that we are a democracy of limited government. The founders structured us so that all of the government power was divided so that no single branch or entity could consolidate power and become tyrannical. That's what we are guarding against always.
So, Professor, I want to talk about the enduring power of the Constitution even over the past decade. Of course, we could talk about Lisa Cook's case, where the court stepped in when nobody else would and guaranteed the Fed's continued independence. We could talk about a lot of these retribution cases being thrown out. But the one thing that we're noticing reading Regime Change by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan is it's not just the cases that get to the court. It's the understanding what the court would do if they tried to suspend habeas corpus, if they tried to suspend the if they tried to enforce and enact the Insurrection Act, where you have people that were all in for Donald Trump and all in on 2020 and all in on all these other things saying, no, you don't understand. The court will knock this down. You can't do it. It will weaken your presidency. Talk about not just the cases we read, but the power of the Constitution in preventing some of the most horrid, despicable ideas from being enacted.
It's a great point as well, Joe. I mean, the court and the Constitution continues to be a hedge against this administration's most excessive impulses. But I don't want to give the court too much credit here. So, yes, it seems likely that the court will strike down the president with Lisa Cook. But it's also likely, and I think very likely, that the court is going to overrule Humphrey's executor in that case involving Rebecca Slaughter, the FTC commissioner that the president wishes to remove. So in a lot of ways, especially on the shadow docket, this court is actually midwifing some of this administration's most excessive impulses. So they may stop the president on certain things. I think birthright citizenship will be one of those. But there are also places where they are facilitating this. So the court giveth and the court taketh away in many cases.
Yeah. The new book, The U.S. Constitution, a comprehensive and annotated guide for the modern reader, is available now. Author and NYU law professor Melissa Murray, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. Congratulations on the book.